Hello, this is Gerald Tuan van Waas and the educational channel of demonstrations regarding the sounding form theory, regarding the idea that letter combinations direct you into a certain direction that shows you how these letter combinations really have a combined form of directions that express the idea what needs to be expressed with these letters. And it follows a certain logic, a logic which is very basic and which is based upon how we direct ourselves into the world. And in these videos I express how this logic has been built up. And in the previous videos I explained how the first couple of letters of the first level of complexity were very much fitting within an idea of three dimensions, our three-dimensional world, where we could distinguish certain elements. And the way how we distinguish these elements within this three-dimensional world were already enough to express certain words. But there are words that need much more expressions, much more complexity. And in theory, it is also that way, that this next level of complexity involves higher dimensions than three, which are basically impossible to imagine. The fourth and fifth dimensional context. If I tell that to you, that I will explain this to you in a reasonable way, you will think that I can't do that. But it's because the structure where these matches are in language are very neutral, and actually they are having the context of the fourth and fifth dimensional fourth and five dimensions, but they are in fact very stable, and they also fit in other regions. So it is more like a context where you don't have to calculate all the possibilities there. No, the rhythm is there, the neutrality is there, and it could even fit with lower dimensions because they fit. But if we want to go there and understand how we have to go there, or why we have to go there, I also have to explain this context. And this context can be explained in a way that everybody can understand that. So I will explain the next two levels, which are connected with the fourth and fifth dimensional contexts. But first I will go back to what we already had. So we started from an idea how we deal with reality, how we give an order to reality is our main focus. It's the I who decides what it is. It's one opinion, it's one definition, the definition of what we say it is. This is the neutral position, this is the one. Gradually, if we also meet other persons, if you meet other opinions, they don't match so well, or not everything matches so well. So yeah, we will make a selection and say, okay, I will take what works and what does not work, and then I have some way of comparison. And after a while I also say, like, okay, I have some way of communicating because I accept that I use what works and what does not work. And we have a certain continuation in our conversations, in our communications, in our interactions. But in a way, something is still going into its own direction, and it's not always easy to follow the communications in a positive way when we see that, yeah, the things are still going into a direction which isn't ours, and that makes it more difficult to keep an order in this three-dimensional context, because some things don't fit with our order. And how does it come? It's because the order itself, how we make an order, it's embedded in doubt. there's already doubt from the beginning. We think we have an order. We have a very good order. We have an order of three-dimensional, but already a couple of times we had doubtful moments. Already with the definition of confirming our definition and say, okay, now I know I can use it. So for after A, my definition, I have T, or an adaptation or an example of what I can use. This was already a bit doubtful if we could use that or not, but we say, okay, I can use it, I am able to use it, so I will use it. But after a while, some of these elements won't match. So that's the doubtful moment, which comes very, very quickly already with the K. And the you, or the other person, the you, is already a combination of what works for both of persons, and you leave out a certain part which does not work. If you start to cooperate with this, or in communication from I with you, and develop what works, even there, it can only the things will develop that works, that are have a positive evolution. Some things will work and some things will not work, and it continues like that. And in the end, if we really fully analyze the context of our communications, it always comes down to this: yes, there's a part that works and another part that doesn't work. That's our impression, but in a way it is actually there is an independent direction that works on its own, which I can't really, so that I can't really continue to say like, okay, I only use what works for me and all the rest I will neglect. I can't continue to neglect what doesn't work at this moment for me, while it does work in reality. So I have to have a different way of approach in this. So I had the I as a starting point, the you as a continuation in communication, and I made an order in it so that I said, okay, I have a cooperation because there is a comparison possible between you and me, or even between others. I could use it. But all of these elements, all of these decisions that this could work, my opinion, or a comparable opinion, or a communication form that we make a balance between I and you, it's all a little bit a forced idea. It's a forced security that I have a definition that works. It's a forced certainty that I can communicate with something that might be comparable to what you your ideas and so on. And this cooperation is a forced cooperation. Not everything will work everywhere or will work all the time. There's always a part that we don't understand, and that doesn't work, and that doesn't work in our communication. But anyhow, we will need a continuation to make everything work. And we started from a one-dimensional vision I. We adapted this one-dimensional vision to the things that work and does not work, but at the end we needed to have a two-dimensional vision that we say, okay, I make a cooperation of what works and what does not work, but I need a middle road, the continuation itself, the balance between all differences are necessary to deal with. For my starting point and your starting points of the other starting point of the others were always things that worked for me. There were always things that worked for you or for the other or for somewhere else. Only in between there was the neutral vision that could use both things at the same time. The best thing that we would do is that to go immediately to a point where we could use a neutral vision we could use a balance between the yeses and the nos as a starting point. So instead of starting from our world vision of our three-dimensional position, we use a different position in between you and me, in between me and someone else, or something unknown, and find a renewed balance, actually, instead of being distracted by what does not work or have to deal with what does work. We can also immediately seek a point where we have a balance. I will express it in a slightly different way to show you what we need. And that's the next step, actually, what we need. This next step that we need is that we're always dealing with one position or one opinion, another position or another opinion, and somewhere in between there will be a communication that works, where we can make a balance of what works for both of us, and where we can have a balance that I can immediately see this doesn't work, this does work, but I work towards a balance, so I immediately have the common goal. This move to a new position, this move to a new place is already the fourth dimension. It's moving towards somewhere else, to a new idea, to a middle road idea, so that I can use not only my own vision as a starting point, but also the other person's vision as a comparison. Someday or another, it will find a rhythm of its own. It will find a neutralized rhythm. Not now yet. It's just moving away from our starting point of vision, starting a renewed idea of where can we find a rhythm to make a communication. So it is already forcing oneself to a new neutral position, a new rhythm, that sooner or later we can communicate with it more easily, in a way that we can find the comparisons between our both opinions, our both positions. And in the neutral new position, I can describe especially its differences and what works and what does not work. But I moved already to a new center. This moving is the first letter of the fourth dimension. It's the D. I had to move my center position, and I moved it to a more neutralized position, an adapted position, where I can have a renewed neutrality in between the two positions or two opinions. And all the material that I could use there, even it comes from somewhere else or comes from me, it can be used to insert in it and to use it as a content, as a common content, which is the filling in of the area of what works. And in there's some part that is mine and some part that for me that I cannot use. So these are the parts that I fill in, which is a content I can use to communicate, so that both parties understand each other. And this is the whole content that I can fill in. The idea that I have there is it is also connected with the other party, and in a way it will also reach the whole region of the other or the unknown. So even if I don't know how it is filled in, what is filled in, or I can't reach it, it is within my reach, because I have material which is also part of another area, and that's the third letter of the fourth dimension. It's the Y, or the fourth level. And I can use it to estimate actually what is part of what is belongs to the other. So what do I have on this next level, of this fourth level? I move to a different position, so towards the other, where I have common material, and I also have a range to where it is connected to. So these are the three letters positions: the move, the D, the material, the N, and the connection towards the other region, the Y. Here they are. So together we have a world in of connections, let's say, a range of connections to each other. Just imagine that I would say, what if I use this as a common ground? If I go immediately to this common ground, this neutral position is a common ground between us. Why can't I use it immediately as my new starting point? Is that possible? Is that possible to do that all the time? And so that I follow the leads for the common ground. If I have my attention into that area, that common area, that communication area, isn't that much more easy to do so? Because there I can see all the mixed materials from a common position, from the common area, where it is all developed together. Yes, it is possible, but it needs some preparation to do so. This workable condition of background conditions, because these are actually conditions in which it will work for both of us. It is a starting point that it needs, or it has a balance where it will work for both parties all the time. And where is it? Where is this two-dimensional context, my context that moves forward this whole area of formations? Where does it work for both of us? Because some of the elements in my own context does not fit. In the other one's context, it will not fit. It's only a small part that will fit, but there is a rhythm in it that I could follow that makes it possible to go from one position to the next one position, my position to the you position to the other position. There's a rhythm in it that matches both areas, and this rhythm is the right circumstances that have a rhythm of adaptation, an area of communication, the 1, 2, 3 rhythm into the rhythm of adaptation, 1, 2 together, the number 5 where I'm heading at. So it is rhythm of communication into our regular rhythm of how far we are from each other. I will explain it in a slightly different position so that it's much more clear what I mean. So I have a certain space, a range of space within a time and space rhythm. It has my own rhythm and my own time schedule, how I use it and so on. And the other person has that as well. The other person or the other opinion also has its own definition of reality, with its own range of space, and with its own time rhythms. These time rhythms would fit with each other because of the neutrality in the rhythms. They could fit with each other, so that I could use a common time and space rhythm. We are living in the same time schedules. We are living at a certain point. We're living in the same space. There are circumstances where they will find a match, and this is I will use it as this image to show you how my spatial reference points, how I see things on a certain rhythm and in a certain position, how I see them, and I fill them in these circumstances. That's how I fill them in. That's my rhythm. It's my rhythm, as you can see here. The other one's rhythm, it's slightly different. It also fits within these common circumstances. It fits it differently. It fits it with a different rhythm. It fits it with a different order. But what I'm doing here is finding a common order. This common order, surrounding it within this common order, putting it together into the same time and space context, is the letter O. It's the next level of understanding. It is an adaptation to a common area where it will work because it has also a common goal of reaching circumstances that will work for both rhythms, for both sorts of spaces and how do you react in spaces and the elements that they have in that space, how they work for me. And these rhythms are put together here into one area, the area of the perfect circumstances, how they could work together in its own rhythm. And this has a common goal. So if you compare the areas on its own, so the one person with his own opinion, with his own space, you have this red dot there, or my space, which is the green dot there, you see there is a difference if I compare it immediately in the moment itself, where I am not adapting, but I'm defending my own vision. There's a difference, as you can see here, there's a difference, let's say from 1.1. It's again this numerical order, which is the uncertainty moment. It's uncertain for the match. It will not match, and I can't find a match. This 1.1 cannot match in 1. It doesn't match. Immediately it doesn't match. There is no certainty to use the same common ground of starting from one's own position. But in this new rhythm, in this new one position, it has a common ground. It fits its own rhythm. In their own size, it fits together. And when I put these elements, these sizes, these different sizes together, as you can see, it will find its own rhythm. And that's the background of the fifth dimension. Yeah, there's one, so you have the area of 3 dimensions of space and its own time rhythm from one position. And the other position also has its own time rhythm, which is different. Together you have a 2-dimensional time rhythm space in which the rhythms or the spaces fit and they find an order. This rhythm these rhythms that find each other is this background of a 5th-dimensional context. It's not that complicated as it seems, because everybody can understand the concept that once you find a new neutrality of both people's rhythms that try to find a match, because of this common circumstance, they put the circumstance together and they find its own rhythm. It is possible. It is then possible to find a new neutrality, and you don't have to calculate it the whole time. Because you have a neutral position, it will balance itself constantly in this rhythm. So you don't have to calculate it. The calculations are finding its balance there. And what is expressed better than finding its balance than by the letter W? That's the next letter after the O, the common ground and the common position in an environment where you can match all rhythms and so on together. Here we have the rhythms of cooperation. So the rhythms, the spaces, the places are different. So you have, so it is balancing out the whole time. And both areas are not at the same time, they're not following the same time rhythms, but they are adaptive in a common time rhythm. And a good example to express the W is with the word wind. So you have high pressure, low pressure, the areas, the spaces are different, but the rhythms will find each other and there will be found a balance, and that's the W there. The next letter that you have there as well is the letter E. And here it is, you have a common ground of rhythms, as you see, they go from 1 to 1. But these rhythms you go to that own rhythm in a different balance, also in a different strength, in a different. There is an attention given to go to that rhythm, and this it's like an energy given to that. The energies, the sizes of these energies are not the same in both areas, but they go towards it. It makes the intention to go towards it. That's the E. That's the expression of the A. Everyone goes into its own with its own strength, as you could say, with the letter A as well. And the last letter in that level is the Z. It's also like there is a cooperation how this rhythm works within this balance of one. It's and that's the Z. The Z is like the common vibration, let's say, how this cooperation can continue to work from within, and that's the last letter that you have in on that level. So the way all parties follow their own rhythms, their own time. So you have the three-dimensional space plus one, you have a common three-dimensional space plus one. In a way, it is quite simple that you have a common neutral point where it will match. All the calculations towards it will be difficult because most of the time these ones will not match. It's a bit larger, it's a little less. The only things that matter are the neutral moments. The language tries to let you focus as quickly as possible to the neutral moment where the matches are. The next match is the next number one where it is neutral. You don't have to calculate the fourth, fifth dimensions there. You just have to go towards the next level where there is this cooperation possible. Not much more than that. So you have there's always this uncertainty moment in the one, which it becomes more and more important in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension. It is an uneasy moment, so it's not reached in a stable situation, in a passive situation. It's not reached. It's not a match. The match is there when you move in time towards the correct change and then to the correct match. Here we are changing, we are taking the positions of towards the change. That's the next level of what we are doing. We are making the move towards where changes are possible. And these language directions to bridge these moments, so that we solve all of the uneasy moments that we have in the stable positions that will not give us a match between persons, between opinions, between directions, and we'll try to find a match thanks to language, which uses actually elements that are basically based upon logic and are also about positions in dimensions. And when we say, for instance, hey, you need to make a move, I didn't explain the H yet, but the H is let's say now it's the position where you will find the match in a space that will work. The A will go each in its own rhythm, so that we can find the other person's match with a Y. So hey is a direction that you say, please use your own rhythm to find a match to the other person. Do that. That's what language does. It directs you, hey, attention, please give attention. Give attention to what matters. It's not stable. You don't have a stable situation. It's an unstable situation. We use language for it to find a new restabilization process and start with it and say, what do we need to do now? Next step, hey, move with your own rhythm towards the other. Hey, Give it attention. Please do that now. Anyhow, this was an example of what is, which just seemingly has a certain high complexity because it involves ideas like fourth and fifth dimension. It's less complicated as it is because we use a kind of neutrality that we try to find again. We lose this neutrality, these positions that work well, but it's by repositioning that it can find the match again. A repositioning in time is, of course, involving time dimensions. It doesn't matter. Once we find the matches in the neutral position, we no longer need this idea of this complexity of time and so on. We can find it immediately now. The now matches. This now can be one dimension, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or more dimensions. It doesn't matter. We're back to square one. We have the neutrality. We found the neutrality. The whole system of language is based upon an idea which in mathematics is not used very often. The number one position of the definition is questionable. We are in a questionable situation. It tries to match one. It tries to match a rhythm, and very often it will not match us. So it actually breaks our certainty apart, and gives us the intention that we need to change something, we need to match, and we have to go back to the balance of one, always going back to the correct one, the correcting one. Thanks again for watching. This was Gerald Van Was. There's a website to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you like. Thank you very much. Bye bye.